back at the offices of the luckiest governor in the country, the one who no doubt hoped everybody would forget about him. Today it's official. Well, Governor Mark Sanford and his fellow Republicans are no longer soulmates, if ever they were. In our third story in the countdown, Governor Sanford has now been censured by South Carolina's GOP leadership after a fractured meeting in which a sizable minority insisted on his resignation. Late last night, after a protracted conference call and 3 rounds of balloting, the GOP Executive Committee of South Carolina voted to censure Governor Sanford. The final tally, 22 in favor, 10 members calling for Sanford's resignation, 9 members out of those 41 state Republican leaders voting their support. The committee characterized the governor's recent behavior, notably leaving the state in secret to see his Argentine lover, as a breach of the public's trust and confidence in his ability to effectively perform the duties of his office. Sanford also failed to adhere to the core principles and beliefs of the Republican Party, it said, but barring further revelation, the censure will be the party's last word on the matter. The statement also claimed that the state's Republicans spoke in a unified voice, not really very unified and wholly inconsistent with what most national Republicans, including Sanford himself, had said about the censure idea back in 1998. Then Congressman Sanford voted to impeach President Bill Clinton, claiming that only that or Clinton's resignation would be enough. Sanford has responded to last night's censure through his spokesman, quoting, "The governor fully appreciates the party's position and he intends to work diligently to earn back its trust." Sort of the same statement he made, only with wife erased and party inserted. Let's bring in the Washington editor of the Week magazine, political columnist for Bloomberg News, Margaret Carlson. Margaret, good evening.
Good evening, Keith. How are you?
I'm well. How's Governor Sanford? Did he actually manage to squeak by on this one?
Well, he did, because there's nobody in the party establishment that wants to give the lieutenant governor a leg up on getting elected in the next gubernatorial election. So there's not a lot in it for them to force him out at this point. And these censure things, if you ever give it to the body of your peers, you're pretty safe, because they're not, I mean, the ethics committee in Congress is, it's not going to hurt you. It's like these consent decrees where you say, I didn't do anything wrong, but I'll never do it again. It's a toothless way of doing it when you leave it up to the voluntary apparatus.
Yeah, an ethics committee in Congress is still made up of Congress people.
Yeah.
A majority of the state's Republican senators had called for his resignation. Does this vote by that GOP Executive Committee after 3 rounds of balloting, as a reminder here, does it seem like a tortured deal? Is it a matter of expedience over principle? Because clearly there were some people who said, to heck with this not giving the lieutenant governor a heads up or a leg up on the next election. We have to do this.
Well, there are some, but not enough, because the establishment and the people in power don't want to give the lieutenant governor head up. And now, they've had their chance, and the chance is gone. They didn't get their way, the hardliners, and I think he's, thanks to Michael Jackson and Sarah Palin, I think Mark Sanford makes it.
Hard to believe. Has he learned at least one of the many lessons that is required to see daylight at the end of this, the one about, shutting up, or does he still risk refueling those who would prefer that he resign and refueling the rest of us at almost any given moment?
The first press conference, I would give him the benefit of the doubt in some ways. I mean, he's been on an 18-hour flight. He's just been crying in Argentina for a week. He has to face the cameras. It's a meandering, rambling, but falling in love is a little like temporary insanity, and the guy was off his game. The AP interview was insane, to talk about his forbidden love and his soulmate, and he hopes he falls in love with his wife. All these politicians should think, are my children able to read or operate the remote control? Because for his sons to read about this, they're old enough to read about it, and they're young enough to be scarred for life.
Final damage assessment for Governor Sanford and for a party that used to self-righteously say, no, censure's not enough. We need another 11 months of investigation, then an impeachment that we're going to lose. Well,
it's almost not worth saying hypocrisy anymore, because there is such hypocrisy. If we were to do to our, other professions capital punishment for this, I don't want to name any profession, but let's say journalism would be decimated. You know, half of the New Yorkers, more than half, want Eliot Spitzer back. You do have to be a little bit careful about getting rid of people who fall in this way. However, the second press conference is almost worth capital punishment for Mark Sanford. But he does make it, and he does stay, and he'll do no more harm.
Margaret Carlson of Bloomberg News and The Week magazine, capital punishment advocate. Great thanks, Margaret.
Thanks, Keith.